Hey, welcome back. Which implies like you were here before. So if you weren't, welcome to my channel, to my profile, to my whatever account I'm posting this on. You're getting another stream of consciousness. That's about as far as my brain can go these days. There's a lot. Life's busy. What I've learned for me when I'm learning is that because life is really busy, I have to have some sort of structure. I have to have some sort of probably more of a boundary. So maybe even a given boundary, maybe even something that's very external to stop me veering too far off course. Anyone who knows me knows that I tell the most meandering, long drawn out, pointless stories, but they just happen. I would clarify that it's mostly as a way to empathize with people and try and resonate with them and demonstrate that I get what they're saying and they're going through. But yeah, even I realize there's no point to most of the stories. I've been doing these theory sessions twice a month. I've done them over the years. They're always quite enjoyable. For me, I don't know if it's the same for everybody else, but when I do a theory talk, there's two of me. And I have friends who would say that there's probably 9 of me in my head, but there was 2 of me in those moments. So there's the me that's giving the talk, and then there's another one of me in the background somewhere who's watching the audience reactions. Audience implies like there's thousands of people. This is not a TED talk. Watching the half a dozen people, how they react, how they engage, how they disengage, are they receiving it? So there's like internal monologue going on, while there's an external monologue going on. So instead of doing a public series, which is what I normally do, there's a really super little pub. It's a shout out to the Craignaba. Anyone who's on the Isle of Man knows it. Anyone who's into TT and into bikes who isn't on the Isle of Man will know it, but it's really central. They've got a super room. They are the most forgiving people when it comes to me booking rooms for dates and moving them and underestimating or overestimating how many people are going to turn up. I have spent many hours sitting in the Craig drinking copious cups of coffee while they move around me and leave me in my own little bubble. But this winter, what I wanted to do was run them at home because it's a little bit more intimate. I wanted to see how I delivered information in a different space, so in my own space. And I also wanted to cut the numbers down. So I put together an invitation list of people that I really enjoy working with, that I get a real kick out of being part of their learning and part of their equestrian journey, but also people that I could learn from. So people that I could listen to and engage with and feedback. So it's a little bit more of a discussion. Now we're tweaking. We're 3 sessions in. We're tweaking the sessions, and I'm trying to find my way in how to be less dictatorial. Let's hope I pronounce that properly. But a little bit more of a discussion, so that we're all chatting about it without it losing that structure, without it losing that boundary. I very definitely, and it was the same when we've been putting together the podcast, I very definitely found that before we went into the structure, no, that's not true. Before we went into the learning, we had to figure out the structure of learning, because I'm finding that in equestrianism, we don't necessarily value learning in the same way as other disciplines. So we tend to, and this could be me. Send me a message. It'll be either up there or down there somewhere. Let me know how it's worked for you. Excuse me. We tend to do a lot of our learning on board with the horse, and often then slightly defensively. So as things are happening and going wrong, we're fixing them. The idea of reading or watching or listening or talking theory being an essential part of the training before we ride is it seems to be still a little bit of a new concept. So before we went into the topic of the work, we spoke in the first session about what can get in the way of us as riders, what makes us receive the information, and then what do we do with it. And that paired with, if anyone saw the last video, was a little snippet coming back from a festival in the UK with a rider, made me start to think that it's very likely that as I am missing competition and as I am missing riding at that level, because my main horse is winding down, so he's a giant horse, and he's got the usual lumps and bumps of age, so he's doing less, so I'm riding at a less it's not a higher level, but a less detailed level, and I'm really missing those moments. And that paired together with my urge to get stuck in the quagmire of why aren't people learning, how should they be learning, what should they be doing, and helping that journey, what I probably need to be doing is seeing a therapist. But in all honesty, what I think I need to recognize is that my urge to overthink, which has been part of my brain journey all these years, is often, possibly, I'll say often, sometimes, you can hear by how dithery I'm getting, how uncomfortable I still am with this idea. The urge to overthink is a way to avoid doing. So instead of being really full of gusto and getting out there and finding another horse and just going for it, I start to find the injustices, or my perceived injustices in life, and I start to take them on as my own, as my responsibility. And that's assuming they are injustices, because really half the time it's none of my business what the equestrian community is doing, what they're perpetuating, what they're not, where they're putting their value system. But so often I feel it's the downfall of all civilization that not everybody wants to do the theory, wants to do the overthinking, wants to do the really detailed stuff. And really, more and more, I have to recognize that that is a really nice excuse. It's a really nice way to pretend like I'm too busy to jump with both feet. I'm not impulsive. I'm very cautious about how I move. I laugh with American friends and I tell them that it's an Irish thing, that we don't like change. I don't know that's true. I think that's just me. And then when I recognize that change is necessary, I kind of come kicking and screaming a little to it. So within the theory and within the overthinking, what I'm trying to do in these theory sessions is recognize the moments where I could be doing instead of thinking, the moments where I could be taking a step forward, maybe as well as thinking about it, but certainly trying not to just think about it. I do admire riders who can just do whatever horse they have, they just go out and they do, and they compete and they ride and they give it their full energy and their full enthusiasm and their full it's tempting to say their full hope, Because being an introvert and being cautious, there is a real temptation to meter things out really small and really slowly in a really measured way, just in case it goes wrong. Um, and that's not working for me. That's not working for me right now. And I suppose that's maybe the old learning that I've had through therapy is if it's not working for you anymore, it's time to change it. So it is time for a second horse, and saying that out loud seems like such a disservice and such a betrayal of Rex, the horse I have. But it's time for a second horse. It's time to get out competing again. It's time to remind myself how to do it and not be so afraid of learning on the go, not being so afraid that I don't know it and it's my absolute responsibility to know it fully and deeply before I even put my foot in the stirrup. How that's going to take place, how that's going to happen, I have absolutely no idea. So I have been looking at horses. I've made some inquiries about horses. There's certainly lots of horses out there. There's lots of horses that I love. There's nothing that's making my heart leap. But again, I'm recognizing that maybe that's my overthinking brain going, oh no, maybe I'm not quite ready yet. I'm also conscious that I'm getting old now, and I've always felt old. I felt old when I was 10 and 12 and 15 and 20. Now I'm getting older. So yeah, there's more and more of an incentive to get off my ass and do, and less of a chance to trick myself into the overthinking and the preparation being really necessary. It doesn't feel like it's really necessary anymore. It feels like I should just get off my ass and get a horse and start competing. So yeah, it's again, it's a little bit of a head wreck. It's a little bit of a journey, but it seems to be a necessary part of the journey. And luckily, there's always coffee to keep me going in the short term. So I suppose the reason that I make some of these videos is it's definitely cathartic. I did a writer's course years and years ago, and I very quickly learned that I didn't want to be a playwright or a writer, and I do write a little. I have some stuff that's churning around in the back of my head that every now and again I put a little piece on paper. But actually, the getting it out of my head was really important. So getting thoughts outside definitely changed how I perceived them. Definitely changed how much power they had. So the videos are slightly the same. It's a way to get the thoughts outside of my head. They're quite jumbled. You'll have figured out by now. But it's also in a way to try and resonate with other writers, try and resonate with other people, find common ground. Always yearning for that horse family, and again, that's a real therapy thing. Looking for family, looking for your unit, and looking for your tribe, but trying to show people, yeah, I get it. I totally get it. I'm right there with you. I have the same fears. I have the same vulnerabilities. I have the same excitements. I have the same hopes and dreams. And hopefully a sentence or a phrase or a thought process or something through the videos, through the theory sessions, through the teaching, through all the stuff we're doing, that we recognize the familiarity in it, the similarities, the fact that we're all doing the same thing. So let's just fucking get on with it. Let's just put your foot in the stirrup and do So I'm going to try and do as many of these stream of consciousness videos as I can, as many as I'm comfortably uncomfortable with, because I'm distinctly uncomfortable with this kind of stuff. And see where it brings me, see where the voice outside of my head starts to steer me as I look in a much more definite way at what comes